Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you. We may take our seats. Your Excellency, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Honorable William Ruto, the leadership of the National Assembly and the Senate, Cabinet Secretaries and the entire public service, Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, representatives of the private sector, distinguished youths from the 47 counties of Kenya, ladies and gentlemen, with the permission of Your Excellency, I will now invite the Deputy Chief of Staff and Deputy Head of Public Service, Mr. Nzioka Waita, to take up today's program. Mr. Waita, sir.
Sina habari yoyote kulingana na mambo ya national government. Vipi sasa? Siwezi sema. Mmesaidia kiaje? Yeah, sijaona. Do you know where your taxes are going? I don't know. Ushuru yangu najua inaenda kwa serikali. Lakini ile kazi nafanya ndio sijui nafanya kazi gani.
Tushako kama kwetu bado. Wengine ndio wanaona.
Maendeleo ni mwenyewe anajifanyia za gani yeye unifanyia maendeleo mtu wangu.
Hata hivi ndio tusikia kwamba rais wetu ataingia Kilifi kujazindua rasmi mradi wa maji ambao umegharimu serikali ya Jubilee bilioni 2.3, 2.3 bilioni.
I don't think so. Kama watu wageto wanasaulika sana.
The question we've been asking all along, tunataka tuone miradi ambayo imefanywa na Jubilee government wakati huu.
They've done a lot, then they have done almost nothing to tell us what is this and what they've done.
As an accountable administration, we are obliged to explain to Kenyans what we have done with the mandate bestowed on us. We acknowledge that the journey of transformation is one that we must walk with our people, and I am therefore pleased to inform you that in the coming weeks, my administration will launch a public information platform to share in much more detail the government's delivery agenda during the last 4 years.
Your Excellency, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, William Samoei Arap Ruto, leaders of the National Assembly, represented here today by Honorable Adan Duale, members of the Cabinet, Principal Secretaries, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chief Executives and Chairmen of State Corporations, Captains of Industry, the Fourth Estate, invited guests, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. A very good morning to you. How many of you, by a show of hands, have gone through an experience where you are asked, you know, we know this government has done a lot, but we're not quite sure how that a lot represents itself. Just how many of you have been stuck in that conversation where you are trying to explain the four corners of what the government has done? By a show of hands, supporters, government officials, the youth out there, how many of you have been asked so many times, please tell us, we're not sure if this road is your road or it's a county road or whose road this is. many of us, and I can see Waziri Adan here in front, this is a question we all confront all the time. And it's a question that is born out of a hunger and a desire by our people to know more about what their government has done. And these questions are not asked out of malice. They're not asked out of a desire or an intent to see the government fail to succeed. They are asked because the people are genuinely interested to know what has been done for them. There is a famous author by the name of Rudyard Kipling, who many years ago said that for history, if history was taught in the form of stories, then history would never be forgotten. And really today we are here to start telling a story, the untold story of the Jubilee administration over the last 4 years. The story of people like Raphael Mwangangi, my father, who, courtesy of NHIF, gets his weekly dialysis paid for him, alongside millions of other Kenyans who are now benefiting from this. It's a story of our youth in Faza Island, in Liboi, in Bulahayo, all the way until Mandera, who have never been treated as citizens because they've never, until this administration, had a chance to have a national ID card. It's the story of the banana farmers in Migombani, in Taveta, who, since the collapse of the East African Railway, have been unable to make a trip to Mombasa to sell bananas and return home the same day. Today, they can do it in 4 hours. It's a story of those people in Turbi who had to plan for a month for a journey to Nairobi. Now they can do it in 7 hours. It's a story of those millions of Kenyans who were used to having to go to their former provincial headquarters to get a duplicate driving license or a lost ID or to apply really for government services. Today, those same people can access those services across the country, near where they live, and in a form that minimizes the amount of work they have to do themselves. This story of transformation is about those villagers in Mkunubi, those people who are in Kihumwiri, the residents of Chipyuk, the residents of Nyatike, those who have received title deeds and which they have never seen or owned since independence. This untold story is about our men and women in the police service who for the first time are starting to see dignity in their jobs. Their health care, their insurance is taken care of. Their housing is starting slowly but surely to take shape. Their weaponry is now up to par. Their mobility has doubled and is beyond what they would themselves have ever imagined. This untold story is a story that Kenyans are yearning to hear. And it's a story that we, as those in government, have to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, out of the 40 million Kenyans that there are, the average age of those Kenyans is 19 years and 2 months. So over half our country are so young. They are defined by a generation that does not waste time. They are anxious for information. Their attention span is short and limited to only those things that will give them the gratification and the desires of their day. So we as a government have to change the way we tell our stories. From printing old booklets, from looking for long newspaper adverts, to reaching those 19-year-olds in medium that they understand, in a way that they can interact with, in a format that they can share, in something that they can interrogate. They can ask questions. They can actually look at this information and say, is it really true that the people of Rusinga Island now have a bridge between Rusinga and Mbita that they never had, and that before they had to look at weather patterns before making a decision to go to town? and that is now a thing of the past. This is really where this story brings us here today. And because I don't want to preempt what will be seen and shown later, I just want to extend, on behalf of my boss, the head of the public service, my gratitude to all the public servants, wherever they may be, for sharing this information, for allowing us to interrogate this information, for us to say, this is not enough data. Our people will not be happy to see this. They need to see more information. We have been honest with ourselves. Where we have done well, we have said we have done well. Where we are still work in progress, we've indicated that it's work in progress. But more importantly, this information will now be in your hands to do with, to share, to enjoy, to interact with, and more importantly, to understand where your country has moved to. The untold story of Kenya is a very powerful story. I would like to invite the moderator of our next session, a young man who is loved and hated, but is respected as a professional. He's one who has a command of an audience that our politicians would be envious of. But more importantly, he's a man who will trigger the beginning of this journey by chairing a small session here that I think you will all enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now invite Larry Mado to come onto stage and take over the proceedings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nzioka. I have never been introduced like that. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Wow, I have seen more life from a dead donkey. So I'm going to teach you something. What the kids are doing these days is called side eye. So side eye is when you're looking at the person next to you, but unaangalia kiplani. You're not looking at them completely. You're like, so try and look at the person next to you and give them side eye to see why they're not as enthusiastic. So try and give, Your Excellency, try and give the DP some side eye. You're like, and DP try and give the president some side eye. You're doing, ama namna gani? Inaweza kabisa. My name is Larry Mado. I'm a technology editor and news anchor at NTV. I also write a newspaper column in the Daily Nation called Front Row, Tuesdays, I think it's Wednesdays now, on the theoretical intersection between technology and policy, politics, and sometimes pop culture. And I'm here because I'm a journalist and I have questions. It's a credit to the presidency that they've allowed me as the journalist to come on your stage and ask questions regarding what is happening today. So beyond that, we're going to have a small session. I know you're all very busy people. The whole government is here. When we're going to make it really short, it's going to be just 5 hours. And then, and then we can all go home. Sounds good? Okay, 4.5 hours. So please help me welcome to the stage 3 people whose lives best exemplify what has been done over the last 4 years. It's very intimidating to come up here. So when they come up on stage, please give them a big round of applause, okay? Can you guys agree to do that with me? Thank you. You're a fantastic audience. Don't need to be prompted. Well, first off is Engineer Wamboi Kinoti. She's only 26, and she's the site engineer for the Ngong Road Dual Link Phase 1. Where's Wamboi Kinoti? There she is. Big round of applause for her as she comes up. She's an accomplished young Kenyan. We're really excited to have her come up on the stage. Next is Irene Kaleche. She is the sole proprietor of Plan Believe Grocery, and she used to be a Mama Mboga. She's got a fantastic story. I will tell you all about that in a moment. Also coming up on stage is Nick Otieno. He is the managing director of Patience Furniture in Kibera. He runs 2 furniture companies and pretty much more. A big round of applause for Nick Tafadhali. Also joining us on stage is a man who's from Uasin Gishu County. He's working on his PhD, a young man called, it says here, William Ruto. Ladies and gentlemen, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And last but not least, and last but not least, please put your hands together in a very special way for His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. Very good, thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your attention to the other side, because Redforth has a very special chorus for you as we get them ready. Yes. the DP and the HE's tools.
Bwana ni mwokozi wangu, tena ni kiongozi wangu, ananipenda leo kuliko jana. Baraka zake hazikuishi, si kama binadamu abadiliki. Ananipenda leo kuliko jana, kuliko jana, kuliko jana. Yesu nipende leo kuliko jana, kuliko jana, kuliko jana. Yesu nipende leo kuliko jana. Sina kuomba Mungu uwasamehe, wangalijua jinsi unavyonipenda mimi wasingelisema. Na maadui wangu ninawaombee maisha marefu, wazidi kukuona ukinibariki. Ujue binadamu ni watu wa ajabu sana, walimkana Yesu mara 3 kabla jogoo kuwika. Ujue binadamu ni watu wa ajabu sana, walimsulubisha Masia bila kusita. Oh, na Bwana ni mwokozi wangu, na tena ni kiongozi wangu, ananipenda leo kuliko jana. Baraka zake hazikuishi, si kama binadamu badiliki. Ananipenda leo kuliko jana, kuliko jana, kuliko jana. Yesu nipende leo kuliko jana, kuliko jana, kuliko jana, kuliko jana. Yesu nipende leo kuliko jana.
Wewe ndo nategemea, kufa kupona Baba na kutegemea. Chochote kitanikatia, kuingia mbinguni utaniondolea. Wewe ndo nategemea,
A big round of applause for Red Fourth Chorus. Asanteni sana. Your Excellencies, thank you so much for allowing us to have this conversation. With your permission, I'd like to start with the 3 other guests on the panel, starting at the extreme end with Wamboi, who's got a fantastic story. So Wamboi, you're 26. You're a site engineer for a major construction project. How did you land there?
My name is Wamboi Kinoti, as you've heard. I graduated from the University of Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in 2015. I joined the building industry briefly for 1 year, but I heard there was a project called Ngong Road, the expansion of Ngong Road. So I hustled Kura, and I was there almost every day with Engineer Kinoti, and that's how I was able to meet the contractor, and that's how I joined.
You're one of the youngest and highest ranked engineers in the entire project.
Yes, I am.
Isn't that kind of very intimidating?
Oh, definitely it is. On the ground every day you're intimidated by, of course, older people who, of course, they know more than you. But I think the nature of the project, it's a grant project from the Japanese government. So apart from giving the road itself, they're also trying to train young upcoming engineers so they can take up the technology and be able to stay back and continue the technology, Japanese technology in road construction. So their training is also key as part of the grant project from the Japanese government.
For the purposes of those who are here, what is it like as a young Kenyan for you being at the center of one of the biggest infrastructure projects in the country?
As you said, yeah, it's quite intimidating. Every day on the ground, because I'm always on the ground every day with the workers, with the operators, with the machines. I think I met His Honorable when he came to launch the project.
Right.
So of course every day they think, okay, this young girl, she's 26 years old. These men have been working 10, 15 years experience in the construction industry. But because I work directly under the chief engineer, so he gives me directly orders to implement on the ground. So I have guidance from him at all times. So when you're giving orders on the ground, it's not taken up immediately because they think, this girl, what is she saying? But for me, it's a learning process. Challenges make you grow. So for the challenges that I've faced on the ground have made me grow. And it's been 1 year, and I've learned a lot. I'm not the same person I used to be.
We'll talk about what the industry is like and for you, the challenges you're seeing there a little later. But I also want to bring in Irene. And Irene Kaleche, ulikuwa mama mboga? Wapi?
Kwa majina naitwa Irene Kaleche. Nimekuwa muuzaji wa mboga Embakasi.
Embakasi.
Yeah.
Halafu siku hizi hauzi mboga?
Nauza mboga
lakini kwa level lingine.
Kwa level nyingine.
Nini kilitendeka?
Sasa nimeuza mboga kwa siku nyingi sana mpaka kuna wakati umekuja ukafika kitu 2014. Hapo ndio wakati nilianza maisha yangu ya kuuza mboga ikaanza kuchange. Nilikuwa natoka soko siku moja, nikiwa niko stage, nikapatana na wamama wakisema kuna vile siku hizi kuna kazi zimetokea za wamama. Vile unaweza ngangana upate kazi mahali pengine uimprove kutoka mahali umekuwa. In fact I've sold for years and years.
Since 1999?
99.
99 ulikuwa unauza mboga tu hapo kwa stage hadi 2014.
Yeah. Kiuza mboga sijaona improvement yoyote, nimekuwa chini sana. So wakati nilisikia hiyo story, nilijaribu nikaenda nikachukua hizi certificates za Angipo, nikajoin, nikaelekezwa na mama fulani vile huwa mtu anatafuta mpaka upate hizi tenders. Ndio wakati mmoja nilipata tenda, nikanjaza. Nilienda nikanunua tenda, nikaelezwa vile unanunua, unakuja unajaza, nikakuja nikajaza, nikatuma back. Sikujua ile timu tulikuwa tumetuma nao wengi hawakufaulu, lakini mimi yangu ikakuja nikiwa nimefaulu. Wakati hiyo tenda ilirudi, ilikuja LPO ikiwa na pesa mingi sana yenye hata mimi mwenyewe siwezi afford.
LPO ilikuwa pesa ngapi?
1.5.
1.5 million.
Yeah, and in my account nimekuwa nikiflow with my 70,000 shillings. Only that.
So LPO ni ya 1.5 million. Wewe savings yako ya maisha yote ni 70,000.
Na nimepewa only 1 month to start the job. Sasa wakati nilikuwa kwa eka nilihangaika sana. In fact nilitembea sana, sitaki kupoteza hii kazi. Ili institution imenipatia kazi, sitaki kwenda kuwaeleza kwamba mimi sitaweza kwa sababu nimekuwa nikitafuta improvement. Unaona? Nilijaribu kutembea sana. Wakati mwingine hata natembea mpaka kwa ile institution nikienda kueleza kwamba juu wakati umeisha na ni chakula na supply kama mboga, naweza wa let down. Nikienda nikifika kwa mlango nafikiria nikienda kuwaeleza watapatia mtu mwingine narudi nyumbani. In fact nilienda about 3 weeks nikiwa niko kwa dilemma peke yangu, kuongea peke yangu, what can I do? Now it was only 1 week too. Nikakuwa nikienda mahali, nikakutana na jamaa fulani, nilikuwa naeleza everybody. Wherever I meet, nilikuwa namueleza. Hata kwa banks nikienda na waeleza, hawakunisaidia. Wananiitisha logbooks, niwapatie security, but I have nothing. Not what can I do? Nikapatana na jamaa, akanieleza there is something we call youth fund. Nikamuuliza what does it mean? Akaniambia imetokana na serikali, inasaidia vijana kwa kazi. Wakati huo I was young. So nilikuwa kijana.
You are still young, Irene.
Nilikuwa kijana. Sasa mimi ni mama. Nilikuwa kijana wakati huo.
Sasa unatafuta women fund.
Yeah. Wakati alinielekeza, in fact huyo jamaa alinidirect mpaka akapiga simu, akanituma town where I can get that. Nikaenda akanipatia mpaka contacts za ule jamaa nitaenda kupata mahali pale. In fact nikatembea mpaka nikaenda nikafikia hao watu wa youth fund. Wakati nilifika kwa youth fund with my LPO, I was working with it. Sikuwa naiacha nyuma. Nikaenda nikafika kwao, nikawaeleza shida yenye niko nayo. Wakaniambia mama, sasa unataka tukusaidia aje? Nikamwambia mimi niko hapa nahitaji kazi na nimeambiwa kwamba huwa mnasaidia. Sasa unataka tukusaidia aje? Me I have only 1 week hii kazi yangu iende.
Na ni 1.5 million nahitaji.
1.5. In fact hata sikuwa natarajia unaweza pewa kitu kama hiyo. I was just
kwa ufupi, youth fund walikupatia pesa?
Walipatia pesa. Wakati nilifika immediately, it take 3 days, nikapewa pesa kutoka kwa youth fund, nikaanzisha kazi yangu.
Hiyo ilikuwa mara ya kwanza. Sasa ukipeleka mboga ulikuwa na supply Kenyatta University.
Nilikuwa na supply Kenyatta University.
Mara ya kwanza ilikuwaje?
Siku ya kwanza wakati nilipata zile pesa, sikuwa na transport, sikuwa na gari. So nilikuwa na hard time. Zile mboga wanaitisha ni mingi. Sasa unakomboa ngari from Marikiti. Ukifika kule, unaenda unashukisha hiyo mzigo. Hakuna mahali, in fact nilikuwa nabeba na kichwa. Na supply everywhere, nabeba. After the rate, nimekuja nikafika mahali dealing with youth fund, wakanisaidia, nikapata ngari, nikaanza kusupply mboga yangu. So I'm that rich.
So siku hizi uko na gari yako?
Yeah, niko na gari yangu.
Ukisupply uko na gari yako?
Yeah.
Auzi mboga Embakasi?
Nauza bado, sijaacha station. Station yangu iko, lakini niko na wafanyikazi.
Asante sana, Irene Kelechi. And Nico Tieno, you also have an interesting story. You run a furniture company.
Yeah.
In 2014, your business was struggling. And then what happened?
Okay, my name is Nico Tieno. I'm the managing director, Patience Furnitures. I went to a village polytechnic back in Siaya, and I took a carpentry and joinery course, which I graduated in 2000. Then after that, I came to Nairobi to look for a job. But since nobody knows you are a professional, nobody knows you have the skill, I ended up into construction sites, the mjengo work, which I did for quite a while. Then after that, I worked for a cleaning company called Beckham. Then from there, I went back to construction. But along the way, I was able to, I had that zeal in me that I want to have my own workshop. So
Right.
as at construction sites, at sometimes I used to work under the contractor or the person with the tender of site furnitures and all that.
Yes.
So I got a shop in Kibera, Lindi area, and the owner needed 4,000 shillings. That is a deposit and rent.
You didn't have that 4,000
I didn't have the money. So I got the 2,000, I paid deposit. I ran to my pastor's office at a church. I told the pastor, I've got the house, I don't have the money. The pastor gave me 2,000 shillings. I paid, then I didn't have the capital. Then I opened the workshop and just trusted in God for a customer to bring something to repair or something to do. So
Did you have many customers come?
A few came, and I started with the repairs. Then I started with one unit, I remember. Then from there, customers started coming. But I was struggling. I was living in Kibera, working in Kibera. I was struggling to pay a house rent of 800 shillings where I was staying in Katwekera, and I was paying this workshop 2,000 shillings. I'm a firstborn of a family of 6. My siblings also depended on me, so I was really struggling.
Right.
So I wanted to improve my business, and one day I shared with a friend of mine who works at Youth Fund, and he asked me, how much do you want? Then I said, if I can get 100,000, that can help me. Then he gave me, he told me the procedure to follow,
right,
and what to do. So I followed the procedure until the end, and I was able to get 100,000. From the 100,000, I was able to improve my business. And I got another branch at Kikomba, because in Kibera, I was only able to do affordable furnitures because of the environment, things that are affordable.
Right.
But at Kikomba, I could do more improved furnitures. So I went to Kikomba, gang up with some guys, and got another workshop there. And I started working with them. After paying the loan of 100,000 shillings, I again applied for 560,000, which I was given the money, and that alone has really improved my business. Now I have 2 furniture businesses and another business which is not furniture, and it has helped me educate my siblings, all of them, and it has helped me to improve. I've got some few parcels of land. Now I'm trusting God to improve.
So your life has changed because of the funding that you got from the Youth Fund?
Yeah, from the funding of the Youth Fund. They partnered with me. It is not only about giving me the money when I need the money. I go there for advice. They come, they check my business. I think I know a number of them. They've been visiting my businesses. They've been sending media people to my business. Like last week, Wednesday, they were at my business. KBC was at my business at Kikomba. On Friday, they were at my business in Kibera. And today I'm here.
You're not only prospering, you're also becoming famous. It's a good thing. A big round of applause for Nick as well. Your Excellency, Honorable Ruto, he went to a technical institution, which is something that maybe previously Kenyans looked down upon, and sometimes you even try and fake a grade so that you can make it to a degree program. But then there's just as an important part of this process.
Sorry. I think precisely why the Jubilee administration has focused very heavily after we did a skills audit as government. Where are the gaps in terms of the people we need to drive our Vision 2030 and specifically our agenda as the Jubilee administration? And the audit gave us glaring gaps of areas where we have a shortage of people who can trained in various fields, technologists, artisans, technicians, people who are hands-on, like my friend Nick here. And I was very proud to listen to Nick say, I am a professional. You know, that's really what it is. These are the people who will turn the wheels of our economy. And precisely the reason why when the Jubilee administration came in, we are building 160 technical training colleges around the country. In another month or so, the government is going to spend 15 billion shillings to equip these 160 technical training colleges so that we can have more people like Nick here who can become job creators, who can use their skills. Because the biggest challenge we had was we have a huge gap of skills and competencies that would help us drive the wheels of our economy. Let me say this. For a very long time, we focused on university education, which is very good. But in the process, we created managers. But we had nobody to do the real work. And that is why the Jubilee administration is saying, for us to actualize our dreams as Kenyans, for us to make Vision 2030 a reality, we cannot do it unless we have the men and women who will actually make that vision a reality. Many countries around the world have reconfigured their training. And that's why the Jubilee administration said, we are going to focus on our human capital. And we are going to develop the human capital that is going to make us achieve the vision that we have for our country. And a big block are the technical training colleges. And you can see a product here.
All right. Your Excellency, Mr. President, these are just a snapshot of some of the stories that have happened over the last 4 years. You now have a digital home for all of them in this portal. Why is it so important to have all of them collected in one place?
As a country, for a very long time, we have always told a negative story. The story is about what should be done, what could be done, how it could be done better. But we have never sat down and solidly asked ourselves, how do we gain and how do we showcase the positives that we have been able to achieve? And one of the biggest challenges, and Larry, you being one of them, is consistently in the media, tell us what you have done, tell us what you have done, tell us what you have done, right? And so we decided that it is about time, using technology, we made available, because we have nothing to hide, to the people of the Republic, the achievements that this government has managed to achieve in the 4 years that the people of Kenya have given us an opportunity to lead. And so we have consolidated all this information into one portal that is accessible, an open portal that is accessible to any single Kenyan, including you, Larry. So you don't have to now always go on air and say, what has the government done? You just go to the portal. You want to know what we've done in roads. You want to know what we've done in terms of the ICT. You want to know what we've done in terms of titling. You want to know what we've done in terms of promotion of education. You want to know what we have done and the status of the railway. You don't have to raise the question. You can just go to that portal. From that portal, all the information you require is available. And if after that you have a question, you can put the question directly. And you, within a minimum, we're starting off first and foremost saying 48 hours, but within ultimately a minimum of 12 hours, be able to get an answer to your question. And hopefully, thereafter, Larry, when you go to your show, you can enlighten people instead of questioning them.
All right. For both of you, Your Excellencies, the immediate question that's going to come up is, there's been a tussle between the county governments taking credit for some of the stuff you launched and said, no, that was the county government project. Why are they launching something that belongs to the county, Your Excellency?
Let me first of all tell you the essence of our new constitution. We don't have monies that belong to the national government or the county government. What we have is monies collected by the National Treasury through the Kenya Revenue Authority. The monies that go to the counties is a share of what the national government, through its institutions, has collected from the people of the Republic of Kenya in total. In total. Then we share that revenue. And we share that revenue because the Constitution, in the wisdom of the people of Kenya, decided that there were some functions that were better managed at the grassroots level. Health, agriculture, water reticulation in towns, amongst other issues. So we collect that revenue. Parliament, through the division of revenue, allocates how much should go to county governments, how much is retained by the national government. Thereafter, we execute national government programs. They execute those functions that the Constitution decided should be executed by the county government. But the pot is the same. If the national government did not collect those revenues wouldn't be available for the county government to spend. Secondly, we do not have a system where we have divided our country. You know, Kiambu County is not a separate county. It's part of Kenya. It's part of Kenya. All right? And therefore, this unseeming competition that people want to put out there, first and foremost, is unnecessary. I wanted to make that very clear. Because we should be collaborative partners, not the so-called competitors, as people would like to try and put it. But that aside, the fact that we have county governments does not also mean that the national government does not have functions that it implements at the county level. We do. We have road programs that stretch across counties. We have water programs that stretch across counties. So when we are going to open these projects, we're not going to open them because we're trying to show this is what the national government, what has the county government done. These are supposed to complement the county government. And in fact, if we didn't have such a weird way of thinking by some of our governors, we would be doing these things together. Because if we promote tourism in Mombasa, for example, county, as a government, it's a national program. We are promoting employment for the people of Mombasa County. We should be doing these things together. The county government should be saying, what can we do on our part to complement what the national government is doing? And it is indeed my hope that a lot of this has resulted as because we're doing, this is I will say, it's like a baby learning how to crawl. That's why we say, get there. Yeah? Some of rough on some of okay. A bit, okay. My hope this to learn.
Of the
where and that is a shift. Jubilee has success to create a paradigm shift to focus people on development, on what is it that we promised, how far have we gone towards delivering it, and how is it changing their lives. I'm very proud when I hear some of our competitors tell us, we want you to come to our county and tell us which projects the Jubilee government has done. And we are more than willing to take up that challenge because we are proud of our record. And it actually creates the next contest so that the next contest in Kenya will not be about where you come from, the community you come from, the region you come from. It will be about what is in it in your manifesto that will change the lives of people of our republic. And we are very proud of that contest. That is the contest we want. Let me come to your question. And for your information, that's why your question actually comes in. Because when it became obvious that we were not pushing an agenda about this community, about that community, and that our focus was about development, then it was initially, Jubilee has done nothing. And then it became untenable because there were so many things happening. So you couldn't continue saying Jubilee has done nothing. So it had to change. Well, Jubilee is doing something, but it is not their projects. This is the Grand Coalition projects. And then it is not actually national government projects. It is county government projects. So we are happy with that because something is happening. And even them, they cannot resist to say something is happening. That's why they want to make it look like it is not us, it is somebody else. But let me say this for the record. It is easy for people to dream about things, plan about things. Some of the things, some of the roads, I remember the president and I were being asked in Teso. The road from Malaba all the way to Moding to Kakemere. The people there in Malaba were saying, we were promised this road at independence 50 years ago. But you know, promises can remain promises, plans can remain plans. It is the Jubilee administration that has put pledge to action. And that is why you're seeing things around the country. The standard gauge railway, for example, which has become a very big debate, our competitors try to own it, you know? But the reality of the matter is this standard gauge railway has been a discussion around Kenya for 20 years. Countries that are progressive are not where we are. They already have a standard gauge railway. They are talking about light rail. They are talking about connecting it to other areas. We are doing today what we should have done 20 years ago. We would be facing other challenges. The reason why we are doing so many things looking like we are spending so much money on infrastructure is because we are dealing with a delayed situation. We are doing things that should have been done several years ago. And that is why you find as though there is all this debate. But let me tell you, we are unashamed of picking up from where others left. If there are projects, we are a responsible government. If there are projects that were done by our predecessors that we find they are good for the country, we've gone ahead to complete some of them and build on it and take the country forward.
All right. I want to ask about something specific. Like you mentioned the manifesto. This has come up again of late. Jubilee promised 5 stadiums in Kisumu, Eldoret, Garissa, Nakuru, and Mombasa. What happened to those stadiums, Your Excellency?
The truth of the matter is that we have not yet completed those stadia. That is one pledge where we are still on what I would call work in progress. We've managed to rehabilitate a number of stadia. We have rehabilitated Kisumu, we have rehabilitated Kipchoge in Eldoret, and a number of others. But we have not yet built the 5 stadia. But that is just one of the many promises that we have made, which we are willing and ready to admit to the people of Kenya that this to us is work in progress. Work in progress, and I do believe that we are in the right direction. We have completed all their planning, has already been done. We have all the design work, all is done, and we're just pushing for the resources. But again, as William has said, it is not that we're living in an environment of unlimited resources. We have to prioritize. And we have to prioritize going back into time and saying, where is the gap and where do we need to really plug in order to focus ourselves on the most critical issue, which is creating opportunity for our young people. Do we, for example, first build our stadia, or do we invest in the TTIs that are producing people like Otieno here? Where do we invest? We have to prioritize. And so therefore, it is not that the stadia promise is not going to be met. But like I'm saying, we live in a world of limited resources. We are pushing ourselves to the maximum, but we must prioritize. And as we complete some of the key priorities that should have been done long time ago, but we're doing now, we will then ultimately get to building the stadia. So what we have focused ourselves on is let us first improve the facilities we have so that we can focus on the key priorities such as roads, such as provision of electricity, such as provision of health. And then ultimately, we will come to the level of building the stadia.
All right. Speaking of unlimited resources, Your Excellency, a lot of economists are raising concerns about the level of public debt, and just based on how much the government has been borrowing in the last 4 years, they say it's become unsustainable. What is your reaction?
Well, let me tell you, as a government, we've had to strike a very delicate balance. Delicate balance in as for a long time, our planning was short-term. You plan to do things for an election. But we took a step back and said, there are things that will not benefit us in this election, but they are important for the ultimate transformation of our country. And so we had to balance. You know, we've had to invest, for example, in the SGR and in almost 8,000 kilometers of road, and a huge extension on our electricity project. Why are we doing that? They may not give us results. In fact, many young people ask themselves, what is the relationship between me as a graduate from university? What is the relationship between me and the standard gauge railway? Why is the government putting money in the standard gauge railway? Because the results would not be seen today. But unless and until we do the heavy lifting at some stage, we need to invest seriously in infrastructure if we have to actualize the transformation of our country. And we decided, under the leadership of Uhuru Kenyatta, that we are going to do things for the short term, but we are also going to do things for the long term, things that haven't been done because nobody wanted to invest huge resources in those projects, and yet you cannot talk about transforming Kenya unless you have, number one, infrastructure, number two, energy, number three, proper skills and competencies in our human capital. And that is why we are focused on those three, because ultimately, and this is why we need a conversation, that is why our young people need to understand that ultimately the SGR, the roads, the energy will facilitate the industrialization of Kenya. And that is where the jobs will be created. That is how we can turn what we have locally into wealth through value addition and manufacturing and exports. That is where ultimately the Jubilee administration wants to take the country. And for us to be able to invest in industrialization, for us to be able to do value addition and manufacturing, the railway is a critical component, all the roads are critical components, energy distribution is a critical component, and the men and women with the skills and competencies from our TTIs and universities are a necessary component for us to transform Kenya. Sometimes you hear our competitors talk about creating jobs for our young people, and you ask them, what is the plan? You know, you can't arrive at jobs. There must be a plan. And I want to say here, without fear of any contradiction, under the leadership of Uhuru Kenyatta, we, the Jubilee, have a plan. And the people of Kenya, and especially the young people of Kenya, can trust us with their future.
Right.
I want
Yes, sir.
to clarify also, and just to add to what the DP has said. When you talk about people saying they have concerns that we have borrowed more than our country can handle, I think what we need to do is put our borrowing also in context. You cannot, not an individual, not a country, grow unless you have access to resources. And in most cases, including our good friends here, they are who they are because they managed to access borrowing.
Right.
All right? That's why they're where they are. Right? That's why they are where they are. So to those who say that we are over-borrowing, I tell them the only reason you should be concerned about the level of borrowing is if that borrowing was being used and utilized for consumption or for recurrent expenditure. But if that borrowing was going to investment, such as the rail, such as our roads, water and health, things that are going to have a positive impact on the country as a whole in future and enable our overall economy to grow even further, I don't think we should be concerned as a country. So yes, we're not going to run away from the fact that we're borrowing. But the question is, are we borrowing for investment or are we borrowing for consumption? As a government and as a responsible government, we are borrowing for investment in order to create growth in future and thereafter create opportunity and jobs, as William has said.
The twin concern, Your Excellency, is the borrowing is funding the infrastructure projects you speak about, but they're also concerned about how much of it is being stolen just daylight robbery, and the corruption menace remains a problem if you're borrowing billions of shillings and then some of it is disappearing in people's pockets.
That, again, is the reason why we're here today. We're here today because, in fact, if you saw in the promos that started, we've been told 12 billion from the Eurobond stolen. 200 billion stolen. And Kenyans were buying that story because of the kind of individuals who are out there propagating that kind of a story, you know. Such and such a person, I don't want to mention anybody, would not lie. This money must be stolen. They're out there saying that we have borrowed money and talking about fake roads. There's no roads being built. There's no roads being done. So Larry, we're here today to say that the 200 billion supposedly stolen from the Eurobond, we want to show you where that money has actually gone. We want to tell you that we have built and completed a road from Voi to Taveta, a road that was never there. We want to tell you that we have built a bridge from Bita across to Rusinga that was never there. And we want to tell you, if you don't believe it, you don't want to take my word, here it is. If you don't want to believe what's here, go to the ground. Come back and tell us whether it doesn't exist. That is precisely the reason that we're here. So that we can begin, as a country and as a people, to differentiate between truth and propaganda.
All right. Mr. President, the cost of living has gone out of control. About 5 years ago, bei ya unga ilikuwa kama 50 or 60 shillings. Now inflation came in, I think, 10.28%, which is near 5.5-year high.
Larry, that's why we keep saying, let's get our facts right.
Right.
It was not. In fact, in 2012,
right,
the price of unga was almost 140 or thereabouts, 135, 140. It was when we came in that actually the price for the first time came down to around 100 shillings or just slightly below.
Right.
Right now, my friend, the reason the prices have also gone up to 150 is because as a country we are experiencing severe drought. And this is part of the reason why we've been even focusing on these irrigation programs and etc., because we really wanted to ensure that we become a food secure a country and that our prices do not have these cyclical ups and downs that are occasioned by bad weather. But as a government and as a responsible government, on recognizing that the prices also were reaching a place where it was difficult for the common mwananchi also to be able to sustain, we intervened and released government-held maize. And as a result of releasing that maize into the market, we sat down and we agreed with all millers that that price that they are currently selling at has to also equally come down. And it has come down in accordance to our agreement to between 112 to 118 shillings per bag, all right? Which is what it's now come down to from what it was. And we have done that because as a responsible government, we believe that we need to intervene on behalf of the mwananchi to ease and to release the pressure. But the long term is our agenda on irrigation. The long term is our agenda on improving the technology behind our agriculture. On the long term is the government intervening on fertilizers and other such interventions, all ultimately aimed at improving farmers' yields. If we improve farmers' yields, increase quantity, we can ultimately bring the price down. But you see, it is misinformation when you say the price has become unsustainable. We are actually, and I challenge you to actually go between 2010 and 2012
right,
and tell me what the price of unga was, and it was not below 100 shillings.
I will look at the Kenya National Bureau of Standards data again. I stand corrected. A former agriculture minister, I saw you nodding very actively as the president was speaking.
Because he was making the point. And maybe, and maybe, you know, for a long while, we had a battle with farmers because we had left the window of importation of maize into Kenya open. When we came in, we closed that window. Today, there is no complaint from our farmers as to whether their produce will have a market or not. Because in terms of production, we want to give our farmers the first priority to produce. We give everybody else, every farmer from everywhere else, secondary opportunity. Farmers in Kenya will tell you today that for the last 4 years, their delivery of maize, for example, payment has been more prompt than it has ever been. There used to be days when farmers used to wait for 3, 4, 5 months, sometimes even a whole year, because we left the window for importation. But look at what we have done. We have not only managed to keep the farmers happy, we have kept the prices reasonable, and as the president says, when it became untenable and the prices went up, we took the next best step. We not only released maize from our strategic grain reserves, but we also opened a window for importation for a limited time to fill the gap, because we are still working on the long term. And the long term is what the president has said, that our long term is to continuously reduce the cost of production. How do we reduce the cost of production? Number one, we subsidize farmers with fertilizer and good seed and whatever else they need, so that we can create a surplus from production. Secondly, we bring additional areas that are not currently under production, which are under irrigation, you know, into production. Because the ultimate aim here is for us to bring down the prices. It is just what ordinary people know as the rules of supply and demand. You must create enough supply to bring the prices down, and that is ultimately our focus.
All right. We have to bring the conversation to a close real quick, but the president and his deputy have kindly agreed to take a few questions from the audience. We've got youth from all over the country that will get a chance. So we'll get a mic through to you real quick. But in the meantime, Your Excellencies, we ran a story last night on NTV called Schools of Misery, and it talked about 3 or 4 schools in Kilifi County where they don't have even the most basic of facilities. The children are sitting on logs and writing on the floor. And so the laptop project has obviously been a signature project for you, and connecting electricity to schools all around the country. But there are still places and parts of the country where they don't even have the most basic of facilities.
Let me tell you this. That is something that I find most unfortunate. And I will explain why I find it most unfortunate. I find it most unfortunate because, again, our National Assembly, in its wisdom, passed what we call CDF. CDF was meant to be a fund, a development fund, that is supposed to cater for those kind of things that you're saying. On average, when I was a member of parliament, I used to receive about 25 to 30 million shillings a year, which I was supposed to use together with my development committee on local projects. And those were largely schools. In those days, actually, we had more issues because we had water, we had security, we had everything, right, to cater for, because under the old constitution, the national government was responsible for everything. Today, if you now refer to Kilifi County, for example, they are receiving, I think, about 8 billion, am I right? About 8 billion, 9 billion, yeah, shillings every year, which they're supposed to put into some of those aspects. The MPs from that county, on average, if we take total funds dispersed through the MP, you're talking about every member of parliament having about 100 million shillings. Okay? Kilifi has how many constituencies? 7. That is therefore 700 million shillings every year, in addition to the 8 or 9 billion that the county receives. That a child in Kilifi should be writing on a log and having no facilities whatsoever is a reflection on the leadership of Kilifi County, not of the national government. The resources are there.
All right. I'd like to come back when as we end. I'll ask each of you what next, why you put in all this much work. But before that, can I take a few questions? Yes, fantastic. All right, please, if you get a chance, introduce yourself and ask a quick question. See speech, andika kwa blog. Sawa. All right, I see a gentleman over there. Yes, please get a mic to this gentleman over there. Introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Quickly, my name is George Gashara. I run a enterprise fund for film, entertainment, and the creative sector. So I'd like to first say thank you to the Jubilee government for a few cool things that you guys have done since 2014. We really appreciate, especially those of us in filmmaking, the audit, the review, the renovation of the National Theatre, the 40% rule on broadcasting, and shortly the fund that you announced, the 50% tax on betting and license, betting stuff. So my question is, in the country, film is a critical employer for young people, and it's also very important for driving identity, driving tourism, but there's very little investment in film and investment in the production, equipment, the training of filmmakers, and also the productions themselves. So my hope is that the new fund that you've created that's around sport betting will not only cover building the stadiums, but also critically investing in the arts and also film. And as people who are within the film sector, we want to be involved in developing the future of that fund.
You didn't talk about regulation in the film industry. Are you any concerns around that?
Yes, there's a lot of double licensing at the county level, at the national level. There is redundant licensing where a filmmaker has to get like 5 licenses, one from the Kenya Film Commission, one from the county government, one for location.
All right.
And all these are costs that are piling on the cost of production. And eventually we are unable to sustainably make films and television content to be bought by Kinalari.
All right. I'm going to take one question from a lady because we've heard from a gentleman. Do we have a lady? Any? Yes, that's a gentleman. I'm trying to get a lady to also get a question in. And there's one lady over here. Well, that lady looks familiar. Everybody knows her. Julie Gishuru, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, if it's still morning. So I wanted to speak from several perspectives as a passionate Kenyan and African, as a Kenyan mother, as an investor, and as a part of the media world. In terms of media, I find it extremely disappointing that this lady, how are you, had to go through the struggle of speaking to so many people to understand the opportunities that were there for her. And so
the president is clapping aggressively.
it is true. And it's a failure on our part. I've been in the media industry in this country for 17 years, and shame on us. So I think we are excellent at revolution reporting, but we have failed in playing our role on really delivering to the country what it needs. Larry, it is wrong that we are happy for story number 1, number 2, number 3 to be people tukanaing each other, and then story number 4 is analysis of the people who tukana'd each other. However, in order to tell people, young people, how they can access the youth fund, we tell the youth fund, pay us money. There's something wrong.
So they need to pay for advertising.
Exactly, and you know this. We will not tell the story unless they take out millions. There's something wrong. So this is my challenge to the media industry. However, I also do want to say, and Your Excellency, I hope you hear these words. I'm an investor in the gaming industry. Huge loans, huge, huge loans to build a local business. Because if we didn't come into gaming, people will be gaming on international platforms and all that money will be lost internationally. 50% will kill us. So we do want to pay a tax. We are happy to pay a tax. 50% will shut us down and everyone will go to Bet365 and their money will go abroad. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why Julie Gishuru is one of the best in the business. She gave a challenge with the media industry, and then she made her case for the betting companies. Your Excellency, you can go first.
I think first, let me address myself to the issue of the arts. First and foremost, the sports fund, we've actually approved in cabinet, and we are changing it now to become a sports, culture, and arts fund. So it will be accessible not just to the sporting fraternity, but it'll also be available for culture, our music festivals and everything else, but also our filmmakers. But it'll also be available to the arts as well. So I just want to make that clarity that this is a fund that is going to be available to all activities that engage the talents of the young people in this republic. I think secondly, we are also, as a government, doing quite a bit, on more than over and above what you have mentioned. We are also planning to open studios, because we also understand that one of the challenges that many people, or many young people have, they may have the talent, but the equipment required for them to express that talent is very expensive, is out of reach. So we are developing studios across the country, studios that will be made available to young people, be it musicians, be it filmmakers, so that you can actually have access to those studios at a very reasonable cost and be able to make your production. And this we're going to do across the country. And by the way, it is not just for film artists. I don't know if Aden is here, but we were discussing the other day, and we should be going across very soon, because we also recognize that our people are also talented, like our friend Otieno here and others, in their ability to use their hands, but they don't have the tools. We want to go here to Ikomba, where they make good shoes, which really are the main source of shoes for low-income earners in this country. And we have bought equipment, which we want to install there, if the county government gives us land, so that those shoemakers can have access to proper equipment, so at least now they can make shoes that are of the same size. People then can you can benefit from that. But they're not able to do so because they don't have the equipment. We also want to go to the furniture people up in Dagoretti, and also supply them with furniture, with equipment, because not everybody will have the opportunity of being able to get his own equipment like our friend here, but we can create a pool so they have access to that equipment and therefore able to make quality standardized furniture. And we want to do the same for our karai makers as well. Give them pressing equipment so they share, and we begin to start building standardized equipment across the country. So I want to assure you that that is something that is very dear to some of us, and we are very focused on it, and I believe you will begin to see some of the fruits of what the government has done in recent time. To my sister Julie, I really couldn't thank you more for your first part of the question. Because without a doubt, that is something that really irks some of us. Not that we're saying the media should be muzzled from reporting the political side of issues and other things. But you know, when you constantly hear, oh, well, we're focused on bad news sells. Well, what's going to happen to the people who really use your media to be informed, you know? To be informed of how, you know, this is the kind of gentleman you should have on your show, or this lady, yeah? All right? Let them tell other young people, you know, who are probably busy running around, what is AGPO, how does it work? Let them go and explain to these young people, this is how it works. This is how you get a tender. This is how you get a loan from the youth fund. This is how you get and take advantage of the women fund. Because one of the things that is most disappointing, for example, to me, is the fact that over 3 years ago, as a government, we came out with a policy which we thought would be very instrumental in helping our women, our young people, our disabled, in gaining an advantage when we declared the 30% procurement of government. Now, when we sit back and we calculate that we're not even at 10%, we're not even at 10%. And every time we sit, we're pushing our ministry. But a lot of it is because there is no information out there. Larry, help us, my friend. Get that information out there, then criticize us. Because this is what is more important. Right. Their story is more important. Get their story out first, and then you can say how useless I am as a president. Then I have no problem with you, right? I don't mind that, yeah? But get their story out first, because that is what's going to help us achieve the objectives that we need, create jobs, create sustainability, and create opportunity and hope for our young people. The second part of your question, well, you know, they say, it's a bitter pill. But we were very concerned. And I must be frank about this. We were very concerned about the rise in betting, especially amongst our school-going children. Because again, whilst technology has been very positive and has had a very positive impact, it also has its downside. And we felt that as a government and as a responsible government, we needed to ensure that we made it more difficult for people to bet. And indeed, those who wanted to bet, that money should go to causes that are social in nature and that benefit the very same young people. Now, Julie has made a very, very, very public case, and she's not alone, because it's come from across the board. Our Cabinet Secretary for the Treasury will tell you. I mean, there's been a big cry from the gaming industry that maybe we have gone too high. But I would rather go too high than too low. So I would say that let us engage. It is not our intention to kill your industry or your sector. And if indeed we are too high, we have a reasonable and responsible minister, a reasonable and responsible parliament. We can review this, because the agenda is not to kill the industry, but to take care of some of the problems that industry has caused, but also to ensure that a good portion of the incomes that are derived from that industry go to help the young man, for example, who spoke at the back, right? Because at the end of the day, it is a sin tax, and we want that tax ultimately to benefit social causes in our country.
All right. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. As we wrap up, Mr. Deputy President, I wonder why, the question is, if you have done all this, and which Kenyans can now access on the portal, what next? Why are you doing this again?
You see, decisions are made on the basis of the quality of information one has. The one thing that we have, as I told you earlier, we have succeeded in doing is to shift the country's attention from individuals and communities and regions to matters that are issues that affect them. Water, electricity, the road, the rail, what is their health issues. So once we are focused on those issues, it will be less and less of where you come from, the language you speak, the color of your skin. It will be more and more of where is the road, why am I not connected to electricity, the water, and that is where the president and I want the debate to be. We are very comfortable, and we think it will be a big success for Kenya if Kenyans will make decisions in the next election, not on the basis of which leader comes from where, but on the basis of which party, which group of people have an agenda that I can identify with. And that agenda that you can identify with, we are ready for a track record. We have said openly that we want the people of Kenya to judge Uhuru Kenyatta and his team on the basis of our scorecard and on the basis of our track record. We want our competitors on the other side to come with their scorecard and track record. Let them come and say, because they are not new people, they've been around, 20, 30 years, they've been around, so I'm sure they must have some record and some track record of some sort, and they should bring it so that the competition is proper. It's not about how you dress, whether you've colored your hair or not, or that should not be the debate. The debate should be, okay, all of us have had an opportunity to be leaders in this country. Give us your track record. Let the people of Kenya decide. And that is precisely what this portal is about. You know, there is a lot of fake news, fictitious information, propaganda. Oh, Eurobond money, 200 billion has been stolen. The biggest lie ever told in Kenya. The biggest lie ever told in Kenya, that 200 billion shillings can disappear. The government of Kenya can collude with the American government to steal 200, that's really pathetic. But you see, that is where we are. And that is why this portal is necessary, so that people can interrogate. When we say we have done this, we'll tell them where we've done it, we'll tell them what the status is. If it is not complete, we say it's not complete. It's 60%. And we've been very honest about ourselves. There are issues we haven't completed, work in progress. We have admitted in this portal that this is work in progress. But we have a fantastic performance record. And that is what we want this election to be about issues, to be about infrastructure, water, energy, our children, our mothers. That is where we want the debate to be, because in that debate, nobody will become a loser. And in that debate, we will be able to change our country.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And finally, Mr. President, what is your vision? After having spent the last 4 years, and congratulations on your 4th anniversary, what is your vision for this country?
My vision is a vision where we have an inclusive, stable, prosperous nation where every single Kenyan, regardless of where they come from, feels that they are part and parcel of this country, feel that they have a government that is sensitive to their issues, feels that they have a caring government, and ultimately a government that creates hope, not a government that is built on negative energy, negative ethnicity, where I come from, what my religion is. I should be proud to be a Kenyan, and I should be proud of my government, and I should be hopeful as I look into the future, not full of negativity. I should be hopeful. And I believe that with the kind of strides that we have taken as a government, we are heading in that direction. I know we're not there yet. And we're not there yet because, again, as has already been stated, we are filling a gap that should have been filled 20, 30 years ago. So we're catching up. And it's going to take time, and it's going to take effort. All I am going to ask the people of this republic is give us a chance to complete this transformational journey. Be patient. Because as I said not so long ago, even a farmer must first of all prepare the land, then he must sow, then he must fertilize, then he must weed, and ultimately tend that crop. And it takes patience in order to get your dividend, which is the grain that you shall reap at the end of it. I believe we have started that journey. I ask for patience, I ask for time, I ask for support, and I ask the people of Kenya to give us an opportunity once again to be able to continue on this transformational journey.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you so much for taking time to answer some of those questions about your record. And we must give a special thank you to our three panelists. They've been outstanding: Nick, Irene, and Womboy. Thank you so much. You may have your seats. It's been, listen, I think, like I said, I've seen more life from a dead donkey. So I'm going to need a bigger round of applause for our panel. They have been outstanding. I think they've answered a lot of the questions that many Kenyans had from the audience, but also from us in the media as journalists. So it's been an excellent, excellent discourse. And like I told you guys, do you know how intimidating it is to come and sit on a panel with the president and the deputy president? And they held their own. These guys are total superstars. Congratulations, Nick, Irene, and Kaleche. Well done. Well done. It's a very good day. We'll get them a picture with the president and the deputy a little later in the broadcast. Right now, though, I'm sure a lot of you have been wondering, what is this portal? You've heard us talk about the portal so much. So we are going to give the president a tablet, and on my count, you can press to launch the delivery portal. On my count. I need to stand away from that because there's some pyros over there. There is a small button that when the president presses it, is going to open the launch sequence. I need to get out of the way just so that the people in my great county see me at the end of the day. So I'm going to need for you guys to count with me from 5. When we get to 0, President Kenyatta will press launch, and then you will see everything. Can we do that? You remember your arithmetic? Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, President Kenyatta will launch in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Big round of applause. It is now officially launched. Delivery.go.ke. There were no ribbons to cut. It's a digital launch. Fantastic. I need to hear a bigger round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations. Right. Excellent. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, what does the site look like? This is your chance, ladies and gentlemen. Please turn your attention to the screens one more time for a quick tutorial.
Welcome to the President's Delivery Portal, your one-stop public information platform where you will find all the information about the transformational projects by the Jubilee government. This platform has been divided into 3 main sections. These are the flagship programs, national government programs in the counties, and ministry milestones. All these programs are being tracked by the President's Delivery Unit. Under the flagship programs, you will find the major projects that the government has identified as key drivers of the economy. The counties section on this platform highlights some of the national government projects and programs executed in your county. Under the ministry's milestones, you will find major projects undertaken by each ministry showcasing where we were in 2013 and how far we've come over the last 4 years. In the video section, you will find additional details highlighted by the cabinet secretaries. We have pictures and video testimonials to show the progress of these projects and the impact they have on the people of Kenya. Visit www.delivery.go.ke straight from your computer, tablet, or mobile device. Join us and be part of this amazing journey of building a new Kenya led by His Excellency the President.
One more time, a big round of applause for the team that put this together. It is excellent work. I have to give you that. And for those of us in the information business who are looking for information regarding specific projects, infrastructure, roads, etc., this is the one-stop shop for all of that. So like I said, the president gave me a challenge. We need to tell more of those stories. I promise to be looking through that a lot more times and finding interesting stories to present to our audience. And right now, though, because many of us have questions, I'm sure a lot of you do, this was saying, what has Jubilee done? Again, one more time, turn your attention to the screens. I hope you saved your best applause for last. I hope you saved your best applause for last because I'm going to answer right now. Ladies and gentlemen, delivery.go.ke. Fantastic. Well done. Congratulations, Your Excellency. And now we're going to invite you and the Deputy President, William Ruto, to please join us at the back to experience the site firsthand. This is now live. It's available on web, on mobile, on all handheld devices. Kindly join us at the back, Your Excellencies, as well as the three panelists we had on set to experience this site firsthand and see what it's all about. And then you're going to have a live feed. So don't worry if you can't come back. You're going to have it on the screen so you can see the President and his deputy having a first look at what the site looks like. The new delivery.go.ke, the Presidential Delivery Unit portal that talks about all of the achievements. If you turn your attention to the screen, you will get a sense of what's happening at the back as the President gets this explained to him and just given a run-through of what the site looks like. There it is.
whereby the President just launched the delivery portal, an online portal that will enable Kenyans to be able to track the development agenda of the government. Through that portal, you'll be able to log in and see what projects the government has been able to do for you. For instance, if you live in Nairobi County and would like to see what the government has done for you as a resident of Nairobi, all you need to do is log on to the www.delivery.go.ke to be able to see what projects the government has been able to do here in Nairobi County. Now, one thing that came up during the discussion is that the government made a promise, the Jubilee government made a promise in 2013 when they were running for election. They promised to build 5 stadia across the country, 5 sports stadia across the country. And today the president has just admitted that, yes, they promised that, but they have not been able to deliver. But they say that it is work in progress. So maybe if they got a little bit more time, they'll be able to deliver on that, and that they have actually been able to to rehabilitate some of these stadia across the country. Now, things that you'll be able to find on that portal include projects such as roads and ports and infrastructure projects. So if you wanted to know a road from, for instance, Nairobi to Nakuru, where the road is, if the road is under construction or how far it has gone, that is some of the information you'll be able to find on that portal. And one of the reasons this portal is actually being launched is not only to give you the power to be able to interrogate government progress, but to also sort of put to arrest this battle that has been going on between the government and the county government over who owns what project. And it's something that you've seen in the coast, mostly when the president was touring the coast, and there was some fracas with the governors of those counties telling the president, you're coming here to launch projects that don't belong to you. These are projects that either belong to us or the projects that belong to the previous government. And what the president has said today is that whereas you might look at it as non-government projects that are not government and projects that are county governments, the point is not to fight over who owns what project. The point is to work together to be able to deliver to the counties. And also the issue of the schools of misery, if you remember the NTV documentary last night by Rose Wangoi about the state of schools in Kilifi County, that issue also came up today here in discussion. And when the question was put to the government, to the president, he said that it is actually not the national government that is to blame. The blame should be put on the county government itself, because with 7 constituencies and and the 9 billion shillings it gets from the national government for funding the county, as well as the constituency development fund that the money it gets from that fund, it should be able to handle its own education needs. But one might also argue that education is not a devolved function, it is a function of the national government, and therefore you might argue that the president was unfairly laying blame on the county government over that. But also education being something that the government prides itself in, especially with the tablet project for tablet project for primary school children, as well as the electricity in all primary schools. Those are things that the government has prides itself in. So that is some of the information you should be able to find on that delivery portal, to be able to trace what primary schools have received those tablets, what primary schools have electricity, and if indeed it is true that every primary school has been connected to the national grid, as the government says. The standard gauge railway is also another project that the government considers a pet project, actually, and a lot of it is a project that has generated a lot of questions and a lot of concerns among people, also saying that it is not a Jubilee project, it is a previous government project. But you should be able to see how far the project is on that portal. Already the railway from Nairobi to Mombasa has already been completed. The second part of the project, which is from Nairobi going all the way to Western Kenya and all the way to Malaba, that is the part that is yet to be done. But it is a part that may not, we are still not sure when it will start, because the court stopped it. The National Environment Board stopped it due to citing environmental concerns with our project. But on the government portal, you should be able to see how far the project has gone, where the challenges are, and how much money has been spent so far. You know, one of the things that always come up is the government misappropriates taxpayers' money. Taxes are not spent accurately. Taxes are being embezzled. Public funds ends up in private pockets. So you should be able to see what project cost how much money on this website, and also to be able to see if the funding was achieved, where the funding gaps are, because funding actually is one of the reasons that the president cites for not being able to complete the stadia as the government promised. So Mijungu, that is just a brief of what is happening here today, and I think the president will be leaving shortly. The president and his deputy should be leaving shortly after launching the portal. So in the coming days, we'll be able to see how the project is actually utilized. But for now, we hand you back to studio. Mijungu.
Zainab Wandati, they are breaking it down.